My name is Victoria Hayes. I'm 62 years old, a real estate agent in Austin, Texas, and I've been a widow for 7 years. Most people know me as someone who never misses an open house, always has fresh flowers on her desk, and raised her niece like she was her own daughter. Last Monday evening, I was reviewing contracts at my dining table when my phone buzzed with a text message from Amber, my niece, the girl I'd been raising since she was 14, when my sister Lauren passed away from cancer. The girl whose college I paid for, whose apartment deposits I covered, whose dream wedding I'd been funding for the past 8 months. The text was short, too short. "Aunt Vic, we need to talk about the wedding. Can you call me?" My stomach dropped, not because of what it said, but because of what it didn't say. No heart emoji, no exclamation point. Just cold, flat words that felt like they were chosen by someone else. I called immediately. She picked up on the first ring, but there was noise in the background, voices I didn't recognize. "Hey," she said, and I could already hear the distance in her voice. "So, Brandon's family has been really involved in the planning, and his mom, Diane, she's very particular about the aesthetic of the venue." I waited, and they think it would be better if the ceremony was more intimate. Just immediate family. Brandon's parents are flying in people from Connecticut, and with the venue capacity, she trailed off. I felt my hand tighten around the phone. "Amber, I am your immediate family. I know, she said quickly. "But Brandon's parents, they're paying for the rehearsal dinner and the flowers, and they really want to keep the chapel ceremony small. But you can totally come to the reception. That's the fun part anyway, right?" I closed my eyes. 14 years. 14 years of parent-teacher conferences, of prom dress shopping, of holding her hair back when she had the flu, of co-signing her first car loan. 14 years of being the one who showed up. And now I was being relegated to the reception, like a coworker or a distant cousin. "How much of the wedding have I paid for, Amber?" I asked quietly. There was a pause. "I don't know, Aunt Vic. We can talk about this later." "How much?" She sighed, annoyed. "I don't have the numbers in front of me. $75,000 for the venue, $12,000 for the photographer, $8,000 for the catering deposit. That's $95,000, Amber. For a wedding, I'm not invited to watch you walk down the aisle." Another pause. Then, Brandon's voice in the background, muffled. Then Amber again. "You're being really dramatic right now. It's not like you're not invited, you're invited to the reception." "Where is this coming from?" I asked. "Is this Brandon's idea? His mother's?" "It's our decision," she said, but her voice wavered. "Brandon and I both think it's best." I didn't cry, I didn't yell. I just said, "I see," and hung up. I sat there in my quiet house, the contract still spread out on the table, and I realized something I'd been avoiding for months. Amber had changed. Not slowly, not subtly. She'd changed the moment she met Brandon, a software engineer from a family that summered in the Hamptons and thought Austin was charmingly rustic. She'd started talking differently, dressing differently, and worst of all, treating me differently. Like I was an embarrassment, like my 23 years as a real estate agent, my modest but comfortable life, my Texas roots, were something to be hidden when his family came to town. I thought about my sister, Lauren, who would have walked through fire for her daughter, who made me promise, in her final weeks, to take care of Amber no matter what. I had kept that promise. I had given that girl everything I had. And she had just uninvited me from her wedding. I didn't text back. I didn't call. I poured myself a glass of wine, walked out to my back porch, and looked at the string lights I'd hung last summer. Amber had helped me. We'd laughed so hard that day, trying to untangle them, that we both nearly fell off the ladder. That girl was gone. Or maybe she was never really there. Maybe I'd been so busy playing mother that I never noticed I was raising someone who only valued me when I was useful. The next morning, I woke up to 3 texts from Amber. The first was at 6:47 a.m. "Aunt Vic, please don't be mad." The second was at 7:15 a.m. "Brandon's mom is just really type A about planning." The third was at 8:02 a.m. Can we please just move past this? I didn't respond. Instead, I got dressed, made myself a proper breakfast, something I rarely did, eggs, toast, fresh coffee, and then I drove to First Community Bank on Lamar Boulevard. Carlos Mendez had been my banker for 12 years. He'd helped me refinance my house, set up investment accounts, and most recently, arranged the wire transfers for Amber's wedding, Victoria. He greeted me warmly as I sat down in his office. "What brings you in today?" "I need to stop a payment," I said calmly. He pulled up my account. "Which one?" "The final venue payment, $45,000. It's scheduled to go out on Friday." Carlos blinked. "The wedding venue? Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine," I lied. "I just need to stop the payment." He hesitated, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. "Victoria, you've already paid $75,000. If you stop this payment, they'll lose the venue." "I understand. And the deposit is non-refundable." "I know." He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll stop it." He clicked a few keys, then turned the monitor toward me. "Done. The hold is in place." I thanked him and left. It was only 9:30 inches the morning, and I'd just dismantled my niece's wedding. I should have felt guilty. I should have felt something other than the strange, quiet relief that settled over me as I drove back home. By lunchtime, my phone was ringing. Amber. I didn't answer. Then Brandon. Then a number I didn't recognize. Then Amber again. I turned my phone off and went for a walk around my neighborhood. The Texas heat was already building, but I didn't care. I walked past the park where I used to take Amber when she was in high school, where we'd sit on the swings and talk about her future. She used to tell me she wanted to be a teacher, like my sister had been. Now she worked in marketing for Brandon's father's company, a job she clearly got through connections, not merit. When I got home, I turned my phone back on. 17 missed calls, 12 text messages, 1 voicemail. I listened to the voicemail. It was Amber, and she was crying. "Aunt Vic, what did you do? The venue just called. They said the payment didn't go through. We're going to lose everything. Brandon's parents are furious. They're saying this is exactly what they expected from your side of the family. Please, please call me back. I don't understand why you're doing this." I deleted the voicemail. Then I opened my text messages. Most were from Amber, increasingly frantic. "Please answer. This isn't funny. You're ruining my wedding. How could you do this to me?" But there was one text that caught my attention. It was from my brother, Amber's father, David. "What the hell is going on?" Amber just called me in tears. "She says you canceled the venue payment? Are you serious right now?" I stared at the text. David, the man who couldn't be bothered to come to his own daughter's high school graduation because he was on a fishing trip. The man who sent a check for $200 every Christmas and considered himself Father of the Year. The man who had offered exactly $0 toward this wedding. And now he was texting me about ruining it? I typed back. "She uninvited me from the ceremony. I'm just immediate family for the reception now. If I'm not good enough to see her walk down the aisle, my money isn't good enough either." I hit send and turned my phone off again. That evening, someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Amber standing there, her eyes red and swollen. Part of me wanted to open the door. Part of me wanted to pull her into a hug and fix everything like I always did. But I didn't. Because fixing everything meant erasing myself again. It meant swallowing my hurt, so she could have her perfect day with people who thought I wasn't good enough to be there. I stood on the other side of that door for 3 full minutes, while she knocked. Finally, she left. I watched through the window as she got into her car, a car I'd helped her buy, and drove away. The next day, I went to work like nothing had happened. My colleague, Brenda, noticed immediately. "You okay, honey?" she asked over coffee in the break room. I told her everything. About Amber, about the wedding, about what I'd done. Brenda, who had 3 grown children of her own, just shook her head. "You did the right thing," she said. "I know it doesn't feel like it, but you did. I raised her, Brenda. I was there for everything. I know you were." And she took that for granted. Sometimes the only way people learn your value is when you stop giving it away for free. That afternoon, I got an email from Diane, Brandon's mother. I'd met her exactly twice, and both times she'd looked at me like I was the help. The email was polite but cold. Dear Victoria, I understand there's been some confusion regarding the wedding arrangements. Brandon and Amber have been under considerable stress, and I think perhaps some wires got crossed in communication. The venue has graciously agreed to extend the payment deadline by 1 week. I'm hoping we can resolve this matter quickly so the children can enjoy their special day. Warmly, Diane. The children. Amber was 29 years old. And there was no apology, no acknowledgement of what had been done to me, just a request to fix the problem I'd created, by having the audacity to have feelings. I didn't respond. 3 days passed. My phone kept ringing, but I'd started sending every call to voicemail. I listened to them later, in the evenings, like episodes of a show I used to care about. Amber's messages went through stages. First, anger. You're being so selfish. This is my wedding. Then bargaining. What if you sit in the second row? Would that work? Then desperation. Aunt Vic, please, I'm begging you. Brandon's parents found another venue, but it's twice as expensive. We can't afford it without you. On Friday, exactly 1 week after I'd stopped the payment, I got a text from my brother David. I'm driving down. We need to talk. He showed up that evening, letting himself in with the spare key I'd given him years ago and never asked for back. Victoria, he said, not even bothering with a hello. What is your problem? I was sitting on my couch, reading a book. I looked up calmly. My problem is that your daughter treated me like an ATM machine, not like the woman who raised her. Come on. So she wanted a small ceremony. Is that really worth blowing up her entire wedding? David, when was the last time you paid for anything for Amber? When was the last time you even visited her? He shifted uncomfortably. That's not the point. That's exactly the point. You've been an absent father for 14 years, and now you're going to lecture me about family? She's my daughter, and I'm the one who raised her. I'm the one who paid for her braces, her car, her college, her apartment, her wedding. And when Brandon's family decided I wasn't classy enough to sit in their chapel, she agreed. So no, David. I'm not paying for a wedding I'm not welcome at. He ran his hand through his hair, the same gesture Amber made when she was frustrated. Look, Brandon's family is loaded. Diane can be a snob, sure, but this is Amber's future. Don't you want her to be happy? Of course I want her to be happy. But not at the cost of my dignity. Jesus, Victoria. You always were dramatic. Get out of my house. What? I said, get out. You don't get to show up once every 2 years and tell me how to feel. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. Maybe he didn't. Maybe the Victoria he knew, the one who said yes to everything, who fixed every problem, who never made waves, was finally gone. He left without another word. I locked the door behind him and realized something surprising. I felt lighter, like I'd been carrying a weight I didn't even know was there. The wedding happened, eventually. I heard about it through a mutual friend. They'd found a smaller venue, less expensive, less glamorous. Only about 50 people attended. Brandon's parents were reportedly disappointed with how things turned out. Amber had posted one photo on Instagram, her in a white dress, Brandon in a navy suit, standing in front of a rustic barn that was a far cry from the luxury resort chapel they'd originally booked. The caption said, "Finally married to my best friend." There was no mention of me. No thank you to the woman who'd raised her, who'd given her everything, just a carefully curated photo that told a story where I didn't exist. I didn't comment. I didn't like it. I just closed the app and went back to my life. In the weeks that followed, I did something I hadn't done in years. I started living for myself. I took a weekend trip to Fredericksburg with Brenda. We stayed at a bed and breakfast, drank too much wine, and laughed until our faces hurt. I signed up for a painting class at the community center. I wasn't any good, but I didn't care. I went on a date with a man named Robert, a retired contractor I'd met at an open house. We got coffee, talked about our kids, his were grown and lived in Colorado, and made plans to see each other again. I updated my will. Everything I'd planned to leave to Amber, I divided between 3 charities: a scholarship fund for kids who'd lost parents, an animal shelter, and a cancer research foundation in my sister's name. If Amber ever asked, I'd tell her, but she didn't ask. 2 months after the wedding, I got a text from Amber. Just one line: "I'm sorry." I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond. Part of me wanted to say, "It's okay, let's move past this." But it wasn't okay, and I realized I didn't want to move past it. I wanted to move forward, and moving forward meant accepting that some relationships, even ones you've invested everything in, aren't meant to last forever. I didn't respond. A week later, another text: "Can we talk?" Then another: "I miss you." Then one that broke my heart a little: "Brandon and I are having problems. I need your advice." And there it was, the pattern that had defined our relationship for years. Amber only reached out when she needed something. I thought about my sister, Lauren, and what she would have wanted. She would have wanted me to forgive, to open my arms, to be the bigger person, but Lauren never had to watch her daughter uninvite her from the most important day of her life. Lauren never had to feel invisible while someone she loved erased her. So I made a decision that I knew Lauren might not have agreed with, but that I needed for myself. I texted back: "I love you, Amber. I always will. But I can't be the person you only call when you need something. I gave you everything I had, and you made me feel like it was never enough. I hope you and Brandon work things out. I hope you have a good life, but I'm done being your safety net." I hit send and blocked her number. It sounds cruel, maybe it was, but it was also necessary. Because I'd spent 14 years putting someone else first, and I had nothing left to give. 3 months later, I sold my house in Austin and moved to a small beach town in Florida. I'd always wanted to live by the ocean, but I'd stayed in Texas because of Amber. Now, I woke up every morning to the sound of waves. I made new friends. Older women like me who were starting over, who understood that sometimes the hardest thing you can do is walk away from someone you love. I started volunteering at a literacy program, teaching adults to read. It reminded me why I'd loved raising Amber in the first place, the joy of watching someone grow, of being part of their journey, but now, I was doing it on my terms. No one was taking me for granted. No one was uninviting me from the ceremony but asking me to pay for the reception. I heard through the grapevine, Texas friends who still kept tabs, that Amber and Brandon separated after a year, that she'd moved back to Austin, that she was working at a different company, that she'd asked people about me. I wondered if she regretted it, if she'd realized, too late, that there are some people you can't afford to lose. But I didn't reach out, because I'd learned something important. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. You don't have to sacrifice your dignity to prove your love. And sometimes, the people who hurt you the most are the ones you'd do anything for. That's the cruelest part. Not that they hurt you, but that you'd still bleed for them if they asked. But I'm not bleeding anymore. I'm healing. I'm painting terrible seascapes and going on dates with a kind man who listens when I talk. I'm drinking coffee on my porch every morning and watching the sunrise over water I never thought I'd be brave enough to live near. And I'm learning that loving someone doesn't mean letting them erase you. It means knowing when to say enough. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever felt invisible to someone you loved, know this: you are not selfish for having boundaries. You are not cruel for choosing yourself. And sometimes, the greatest act of love is walking away,